I want to start this out by saying rest in peace to Dick Cheney. Alright, before Dick Cheney was leading America into endless wars and cutting backroom deals, he was quietly climbing the ladder in Washington. He got his start in the Nixon and Ford administrations during the 1970s, right in the heart of the old-school Republican establishment. He served as White House Chief of Staff under President Gerald Ford, working hand-in-glove with figures like Donald Rumsfeld. This is where Cheney learned how Washington really worked, through power games and bureaucracy, not principle. In the 1980s, Cheney was elected to Congress from Wyoming and quickly became one of the most hawkish Republicans on foreign policy. Then in 1989, President George H.W. Bush made Cheney Secretary of Defense, despite the fact that Cheney had never served in the military. He oversaw the Gulf War in 1991, which pushed Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, but stopped short of regime change. At the time, Cheney was warning against invading Iraq. He said we could get stuck in Baghdad with no clear exit, that the region was unstable, and he questioned how many American casualties it would take to hold things together. But that version of Dick Cheney didn't last. Once he left office, he cashed in, joining corporate boards and becoming CEO of Halliburton in 1995. And by the time Cheney returned to politics in the year 2000, he was no longer just a bureaucrat. He was a corporate war hawk with a plan, and it was about to cost America dearly.
Now, on a happier note, I believe you're looking at the next Vice President of the United States.
When George W. Bush entered the White House in 2001, many observers soon realized that Dick Cheney was the real power behind the throne. Cheney became known as the most powerful vice president in American history, running a shadow administration on national security. He had his own network of loyal aides and even steered key decisions on defense and foreign policy. From day one, Cheney pushed an aggressive neoconservative agenda that prioritized military solutions and expanded executive authority. He was the loudest voice selling the war to the American people, hammering the now discredited claim that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction.
Simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use them against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
In a March 16, 2003 TV interview, just days before the invasion, Cheney predicted that Iraqis would welcome American troops.
Do you think the American people are prepared for a long, costly, and bloody battle with significant American casualties?
Well, I don't think it's likely to unfold that way, Tim, because I really do believe we will be greeted as liberators.
Of course, these assertions proved disastrously false. The war became a years-long quagmire, no WMD stockpiles were ever found, and US troops faced a deadly insurgency instead of flowers and cheers. Inside the administration, Cheney was the chief architect of the Iraq War. Colleagues recall how he and Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld set up a separate intelligence channel to stovepipe cherry-picked reports about WMDs and terrorist ties, bypassing skeptical analysts. Cheney pressured the CIA, even making multiple visits to CIA headquarters to endorse the White House narrative on Iraq's weapons. The result was a war launched on false pretenses that cost over $1.8 trillion and thousands of American lives while destabilizing the Middle East. When the US invaded Iraq in 2003, Cheney's old company hit the jackpot. Halliburton's affiliate, KBR, was awarded a $7 billion no-bid contract to restore Iraq's oil infrastructure just before the war began. This secretive deal, codenamed Restore Iraqi Oil, was given without competition, and only Halliburton was allowed to bid. In 2005, a woman named Butane Bunny Greenhouse, the Army Corps of Engineers' top contracting official, blew the whistle on this arrangement. She testified that Halliburton's KBR received blatant preferential treatment, calling it
the worst abuse of the procurement and contracting system that I've seen.
In one instance, KBR overcharged the United States Army $61 million for fuel under the no-bid deal. And in what seems like one of the only times the mainstream media actually asked Cheney about his financial ties to Halliburton, here's what he said. "Since I left Halliburton to become George Bush's vice president, I've severed all my ties with the company and gotten rid of all my financial interests." But the facts showed he never fully let go of his Halliburton stake, and his former company's fortune soared thanks to the war he helped sell. By Bush's second term, the glow had worn off. A lot of conservatives looked around and realized the Cheney-Bush vision of America wasn't working. The Iraq War had dragged on with no clear end. The promises of quick victory had collapsed into years of chaos. At home, the government was growing bigger and more powerful, with the Patriot Act, new surveillance programs, secret wiretaps, and an intelligence community that suddenly had the power to watch ordinary Americans. And Cheney defended every bit of it. The wars overseas, the spying at home, and many on the right started feeling feeling like the country was slipping away from the principles they believed in. By the 2006 midterms, that frustration showed up at the ballot box. Republicans lost Congress, and many voters blamed the Iraq mess and the direction that Cheney and his cronies kept pushing behind the scenes. Dick Cheney left office in January 2009 with historically low approval ratings, but he never backed down or apologized for his record. Cheney became an elder spokesman for the military-industrial establishment, constantly appearing on TV and writing op-eds to defend the Iraq War and the war on terror policies he crafted. If anything, Cheney doubled down.
I believe very deeply in the proposition that what we did in Iraq was the right thing to do.
He told ABC News in 2010, acknowledging the significant cost but insisting it was worth it. As the American public soured on the Iraq War, Cheney stood virtually alone in his stubborn justification of the invasion. He dismissed criticisms as naive or historical revisionism. In a 2014 Fox News interview, when the Senate Intelligence Committee released a report detailing CIA torture and abuses, Cheney blasted it as
full of crap, excuse me. I said hooey yesterday, let me use the real word.
You're on cable.
It's okay. You can bleep it. Yeah, okay.
By 2016, the Republican Party was undergoing an earthquake, a populist uprising against the very establishment that Cheney epitomized. Donald Trump's insurgent presidential campaign openly trashed the Bush-Cheney legacy in a way GOP voters haven't heard before. On a debate stage in February 2016, Trump told the truth about what really happened in Iraq.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
This was a stunning rebuke, coming from a Republican frontrunner, and it resonated with the party's base. In essence, the MAGA movement defined itself in opposition to everything Cheney stood for. Cheney's pro-war, pro-globalist, elitist republicanism was now the foil against which Trump's America First agenda was defined. No new wars, secure borders, fair trade, and respect for the forgotten American worker. Unsurprisingly, Cheney was no fan of Donald Trump. Cheney and his family emerged as some of the fiercest Republican critics of Trump, especially after January 6, 2021. Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney, positioned herself as a lead anti-Trump Republican, and Dick Cheney fully backed her. I actually have an entire RINO Roundup episode on Liz Cheney, so if you want, stick around to the end and click on that suggested video. When Liz Cheney faced a primary challenge due to her opposition of Trump, the former vice president cut a now infamous campaign ad on her behalf. In that video, Dick Cheney stares into the camera and delivers a blistering condemnation of Trump.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it.
How about that? How about that, Ron?
Here was Dick Cheney, long a hate figure on the left, now being applauded by liberals for attacking Trump, while grassroots Republicans booed the Cheneys as traitors to the party. Indeed, Liz Cheney went on to lose her Republican primary in a landslide, as GOP voters chose a pro-Trump candidate instead. Perhaps most shockingly, Cheney signaled he would rather vote for a Democrat than see Trump regain power.
Dick Cheney will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Alright, now that we've gone through Cheney's supervillain backstory, here's a rapid fire of things we didn't cover. Back in 2001, Cheney quietly formed his famous energy task force. Nobody knew who was in the room, reporters weren't allowed in, even members of Congress couldn't get the guest list. Later it came out the meetings were stacked with oil and gas executives poring over maps of Middle Eastern oil fields. Cheney pushed a theory called the unitary executive. This wasn't just a legal opinion, it was Cheney's mission. The idea was that the president should have sweeping, almost unchecked authority in the name of national security. While we mainly covered Iraq, Afghanistan fit the same pattern. Cheney pushed for open-ended troop levels, permanent nation building, and no real exit plan, doubling the national debt. Behind closed doors, Cheney reportedly shrugged off the exploding national debt by saying Reagan proved deficits don't matter. The hunting incident. In 2006, Cheney accidentally shot his friend in the face on a quail hunt, and somehow the victim apologized to Cheney on national TV.
My family and I are deeply sorry for all that Vice President Cheney and his family have had to go through this past week. We send our love and respect to them as they deal with situations that are much more serious than what we've had this week.
And finally, the undisclosed location era. After 9/11, Cheney vanished from public view for months at a time, operating out of a secure underground bunker. It fed the image of a shadow government running things from behind the scenes, and it became a nationwide joke that wasn't entirely a joke. Now, with all that said, Dick Cheney may have been an evil man, but I believe all life is valuable. So may he rest in peace, and may his ideology do the same. Thank you for watching.